Fantastic. All right. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode number 52 of the Board Game Gateway podcast. It is.
Okay.
It is the second episode of season 3. It is a week late. I do really apologize about that. But
it's my fault.
Well, look, a little bit your fault. This is Damien. He's one of my co-hosts, and he is the only co-host for this evening. And we are your entryway into the world of board gaming, tabletop gaming, and fun times. We missed out on last week because you went overseas, Damien, on a work trip. But thankfully, we're going to be talking about what he has in front of us because he's actually brought back a few games from the United States, which we're really happy to see and have a chat about. We're also going to have a chat about Arkham Horror and Earthborne Rangers. I have finally ticked it off my list of things to need to play. Ralph was very insistent, and we'll talk about that. And then we're just going to have a quick, you're just going to shoot the proverbial, I was going to say a swear word, but it's the early, we're going to just have a chat.
We'll save those for Matt.
Yeah, we'll save those for Matt. He couldn't be here. But this is the first time listening to the podcast, we're just going to have a bit of a chat about some of the games that we've been playing. We don't have a board game gateway of the week this week, again, for the second time, but that's because we have actually been very busy playing a lot of different other games. And we've actually played a lot of intro-friendly games lately, and it's very hard to pick one. One of the ones that we have talked about in last week's podcast, which is right here, it's Paku Paku. He actually brought the box, so you can actually see what it is. And I'm going to tell you, Damien, it's good to have you back. Thanks, you for joining me once again.
Thanks. I'd like to say thank you to United for safely getting me back. I was on a Boeing 777 flight.
Oh, God.
5 of those flights had been grounded the week I was gone.
Well, here's to you. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. My flight, all the doors stayed on the flight. They did not pop off midair, which was bonus.
Oh, look,
yes.
There are odds on. We were worried for you, but that's good. I will say, if you are noticing a difference in audio quality, that is because we are trying out a different audio system. We've gotten some new mics, and we wanted to try something without putting microphones directly in front of our face. We are going to try it out for a few podcasts and see if we're happy with the audio quality and what you think of it at home as well. So if you do have any comments, please leave them in the YouTube comment down below. So just be, I was about to say be wary, but I was going to say just be mindful of the fact that we're trying it out, because what we are actually planning on doing is being able to use these so we can actually look at each other, not behind the microphones, but also potentially use them for, I don't know, maybe some more sort of fun Let's Plays. I really didn't like doing our Let's Plays with the microphones in front of them. It just wasn't fun. But we've got some more planned, and I think we'd be more willing to do some when...
Also be really good for our game days as well. We're wandering around.
Yeah, I think that would actually be really good. Yeah. All right, well, look, Damien, enough of us faffing about. Let's hear about your trip to San Francisco and what it is that we've got in front of us here and some of the stuff.
So for those who don't know, I'm in IT. I work for a US-based company, and periodically they will fly me out to the States for work. That's what happened over the last couple of weeks. And while I was there, it so happened that a friend of mine who lives in San Francisco happened to be coming back from Japan, and she is a gamer herself. So she messaged me purely out of the blue, purely by fluke, the second day I was in town, and said, "Hey, I'm coming back in a few days, but I am currently shopping in Japan for board games. Send me a list, and I'll see what I can do." So I did the most Damien thing ever. I sent her a list of 10 games, including games that were impossible to find. She found one of the impossible games, and I was shocked by that. But Karen was amazing, my friend, so thank you very much again, Karen. So some of the games she brought back one of them is called Knarr. Knarr is what happens when you combine memory and Go Fish.
Oh, God. All right.
So the premise of the game is everyone gets dealt a hand of cards, and you sort the cards in your hand by ascending order. There are 3 copies of every single card. Cards go from 1 to 13.
This would be very rare to have in Australia.
I have not seen that in Australia.
Fantastic.
And in addition, you also have in the table in front of you, you will have a grid of cards that are all face down. That's the memory element. The fish element is you can ask any player on the table to play in front of them their lowest card or their highest card. Okay, and they have to do that. Then the very next thing you do is you can ask the same player again you can put down one of either your lowest or your highest card, or you can ask a different player, or you can flip a random card that is in the grid in front of you. The goal of the game is to get 3 of a kind. Okay.
Okay, I'm with you.
If you fail to match 3 cards, the players pick up any cards they've played down. Any cards that were flipped get flipped back over,
right.
So on and so forth. So it's Go Fish meets memory.
It almost feels like that's not a hat in a way as well, where you're trying to remember what's being passed around.
Yep.
And
so the ultimate goal of the game is to either get 3 sets of 3 of a kind,
yep,
or get sets of 3 of a kind where the numbers combined equal 7. So for instance, if you can get 3 7s, that's it. You win the game.
Oh, fantastic! Wow.
If you can get a set of 5 and a set of 2s, you win the game.
Fantastic. Yep.
It's super simple. It is very, very much in the realm of it's family friendly. It is good fun. Don't play it when jet lagged and slightly drunk. Memory doesn't work very well. But Knarr is really good. So I am going to butcher these names. So I do apologize. Knarr is created by Kaya Miyano, and Sai Beppu. So, and I will say we're gonna add some of these photos to our Facebook page, but I really want to show off some of these cards because the artwork is stunning. Like for instance, this is my daughter's favorite card. So number 2, it's got all the cats on it. There's one that's got like little monkeys on it. We're definitely going to put some photos up on our Facebook page. The artwork on these cards are just truly stunning. So that was Knarr.
I will say as well, if the reason you're hearing Damien talk about Japanese games is that, so the board gaming scene itself has been going through a bit of a renaissance, but in particular, the Japanese game design scene now is really starting to get a lot of international sort of thing. And so, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong here, but Oink Games,
yes,
they're a Japanese company, and they're one of the first ones that truly have broken through with these kind of really, really tight game design spaces. And they're starting to break through into this kind of our European, if you will. I mean, I know we have a lot of American, but there is a very big European influence through board games, and now we're having a big Asian influence starting to come through as well, which is great.
A lot of Japanese games are known for their card games, particularly trick takers. And with Japanese trick takers, where they tend to differ from more traditional trick takers is that they're usually very quick, very snappy. They play on the rules of traditional trick takers, whereas your more European trick takers, they tend to be a little bit longer. It's usually to a particular score, can sometimes take a while. And that's one of the reasons why I really love the Japanese trick takers, is because things like
Yokai Septet,
which
I really enjoyed when you brought that.
Cat in the Box is still probably one of my favorites. But talking about Oink Games, I did get an Oink game, which is tricky to get here in Australia. It's only just been available. Just become available. Now, I will say, when we talk about Oink Games, one thing that Oink as a publisher is famous for is producing small box games that hit really hard. Really good example is Scout. Scout is a fantastic card game published by Oink. Comes in a tiny box.
It was initially called something else, if I'm not mistaken, in the Japanese. I can't remember.
I know it does have a Japanese name. I've always known it as Scout, but I don't know what the actual Japanese name for it was. Now, one thing that is not normal for Oink is to release games that are in a box that big. Typically, Oink
this isn't even that big. That's that's a small box.
Yeah, typically Oink games are about that big. And I will say some other really good examples of Oink games.
By that big, he means by a deck of cards box. That's what he means.
Some other really good Oink games that are worth mentioning are Deep Sea Adventures, Maskmen, Fake Artist Ghost in New York.
I was about to say Fake Artist I really enjoyed that one, which is a very kind of imposter style game where everyone has to add something to a drawing, but one person doesn't know what they're adding, so they have to be very careful.
But the kicker with that game is that you're doing it on a canvas, which is the size of a card.
Which is great.
Really it's painful.
It's a great game.
Okay, so Tiger and Dragon is a brand new one from Oink. This was one of the ones that I asked my friend to get for me. She couldn't get it in English. That's totally fine. I don't care.
You mean there wasn't an English translation in Japan?
The thing is, though, most of them do come with English translations. This one didn't. It's fine. Tiger and Dragon is it's based on a more traditional Japanese game, and what you actually get are dominoes.
Oh,
and
mahjong tiles, though. So
similar,
cool.
yes. And the goal of the game is to get rid of all of your tiles. And the way you're doing that is you're doing a series of things that they call attacking and defending. So on your turn, if it is your turn, you can attack with a particular number. The only way that can be stopped is if someone defends with the same number, or they defend with a tiger or a dragon. And tigers and dragons can only defend blue and red numbers respectively. There's only one tiger, there's only one dragon in the entire set. What makes this really interesting is that there are a known number of each of the number of tiles in the set. So for instance, there's 1 1, there's 2 2s, there's 3 3s, so on and so forth, up until 8. The reason why that's interesting is because tiles are played face down. So as you get later in the round, you can have a look around, do a count, and you can know whether or not you can play a tile down and ensure that that you will be undefeated. Okay, if you remain undefeated, you get to play another tile out face down for free. That's your reward.
Okay.
The ultimate goal of the game actually comes in these cards. So like I said, we want to get rid of our tiles, but certain tiles will score more points depending on the card that we're using during the game. So these are your goal cards. And for instance, the basic goal card says if you finish with a 7 or an 8, you get 4 points plus 1 bonus point for every tile that you placed face down. So in other words, every fight that you won, which is a tile that you placed face down, that's worth a bonus point. Now, potentially, that's 4, maybe 1 or 2. That's 5 points. You're halfway to winning the game.
Just need 10, right? Okay.
Just need 10. It's really, really good. So we got to play this last Friday at the Macarthur Board Gamers Meetup. I was blown away by how much I like this game. So it's very tactile. It's very thinky.
I am jealous that I missed it.
Yes.
But it was my wife's birthday, so I had to make a choice. And unfortunately, my wife won out in the end. So
marital bliss is important.
Oh, it's fine. You've still got the game. So I was like, look, the first thing I will say for me, right, that I look at this, I immediately look at those tiles.
Yeah.
And I go, I want to play with those tiles. I mean, like they are little chonky, little white, remind me of like smaller versions of mahjong tiles. They have those weight behind, which I love. I'm actually currently looking at the rule book right now. It's all in Japanese, but I love how the language of rule books is already, like I can already tell. This is set up. I can already say that's the setup, and then I can see this is what I need to do. This is what I can do on my turn. This is the breakdown of all the turns, and then of course they have the different color. This is end game conditions here, and I know I have no idea what it says because I can't read the Japanese. I can't remember what the not Japanese, but I can't remember what the actual the written version of Japanese is called. There's 3 different languages that they have, and I'm looking at that rulebook going, I know exactly what they are. I have no idea how it works, but that looks really super cool.
Listen in next week, everyone, for Neeber will indeed be providing translations.
I know.
Japanese
all I know
English.
is I know sun ich ni san yoku. I used to be able to count to 10 in Japanese. Can't do it anymore. Anyway, but we'll move on. So that was Tiger and Dragon.
Tiger and Dragon.
Atsushi Hashimoto is the designer of that one. 2 to 5 player or 20 minutes. Love that. Looking forward to playing that.
Tiger and Dragon is now available in Australia.
So wait a minute. So you went all the way to San Francisco to get a game from Japan that a person brought to San Francisco just to bring it back to Australia. In
my defense, this is literally only just started stocking in Australia. When I first looked, it was only available from Amazon Japan.
Well, there you go. Well, no, but look, you took the long way around to bring the game to Australia, but that's fine. We won't blame you. That's fine.
The last game that I got from via a friend of mine from Japan is Nisoku Dice. Now,
Nisoku, yep.
Nisoku Dice for anyone.
This one does have an English translation.
It does have an English translation. Rulebook. For anyone who's as much of a fan of trick takers as I am, will know that this game has been making waves among fans of trick takers, not just because it is good, but because it is exceptionally difficult to find. This was the impossible game. I jokingly sent this as like the first game to my friend. I said, look, if you can get it, this is the game. She said there were 2 copies on the shelf. She got one for me and she kept one. So,
So if we see a black market copy of this one going, we probably know who's the seller. Yep. All right.
So Nisoku Dice is a trick taker game in very much in the same vein as other trick takers. There are suits. In this case, they are colors. There are numbers. And then there is a trump. Now, it's a must follow trick taker. So if someone starts with a particular color,
you got to follow the color.
You have to follow the color. Whoever plays the highest card wins.
Yep.
The kicker are these dice. These dice, you will draw a series of dice, or you'll draft a series of dice, I should say, from a common pool at the beginning of every round. They are already rolled beforehand, and because they come in different colors, and not all of them are selected, that is another factor. They are numbered from 1 to 6. The cards are also numbered from 1 to 6. There will be one die left over in the middle of the table. That represents the trump value and color. Keep in mind, someone may also have the same trump color and number in their hand. Okay.
So does a trump value, it doesn't matter if it's a color?
It's both. And this is one of the things in the game that I love.
So let's say if it was blue 4 is the joker, if you will, but all the other 4s are your bowers.
Also, yeah, that's right.
Fantastic.
So,
yeah, I'm with you.
I know there is a variation of Euchre that kind of does this, and I haven't played it very much. It's just a friend of mine has told me about it. Now, I immediately was drawn to that. And then when I played it, I went, this might be one of the best trick takers I've ever played.
That's a big call coming from you. That's a huge call coming from you.
Because the dice are drafted, they are the only thing that's visible in front of each player.
So you don't actually know what cards they have.
But you know what dice they have.
Right.
In addition, the last die that you have in front of you cannot be played. The value of that die represents how many tricks you want to win.
Oh no! So you right? Okay. Oh yep. Okay. I can see why you would like this immediately.
So immediately you've got this thing where it's like if you know someone has a particular die, and again it's a must follow trick taker, and you think that they want to keep that die, you can stitch them up. You can just say, no,
classic trick taking.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
So. And then the last little thing is that there are 2 black die in here as well. They represent that magical scenario that every now and then you will get one who says, I'm going to win no tricks.
Classic Mazare.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so it's the Mazare call.
Yeah.
So if you say, I'm going to win no tricks, you take the black die.
I love that. I love when someone can you clear like difference between like was it open Mazare or
no?
Oh, okay.
No, it's not quite as complex as that.
Right. Okay.
But the one thing, the advantage of taking the black die is that every bonus that everyone fails to take, you get their points instead. So you can rocket up the points, but it is high risk, high reward.
Yeah. Okay.
Because other people can see what other dice you have in front of you. Because the black die won't be the only one you take. They can basically steer a particular trick to force you to play one of your dice and then have to take a trick.
Right. Okay.
So Nisoku Dice is, like I said, properly good.
And this one is not really available in Australia.
It is not available anywhere.
Fantastic. Well, there you go. One of the impossible games.
It's constantly
expect content about this game coming very soon.
Absolutely. And then finally, I went for a walk when I was in San Francisco. There is a great store called Dogpatch Games. It's in the Dogpatch area in SF, and they happen to have a copy of Knarr. Knarr is one that has been spoken on a couple other podcasts. Cannot find it in Australia. I've been searching for this for a while. So I was super happy to see it there. Again, it's another small box game. It's pretty dense, actually. This one's well packed. But what this ultimately is, it is what happens if you mix Splendor and Cascadia.
Okay.
You kind of get this sort of thing. What you are doing on your turn is you are recruiting Vikings into your tableau.
Yep.
Every time you do that, there may be, so it's like Vikings will come in different colors. If you happen to stack Vikings of the same color, you get the bonuses. You get this cascading bonus effect happening. And then then what you do is you use these Vikings to then send them off on adventures or pillaging or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And really what you're doing is you're trading Vikings for ships. Different ships will have different requirements. Then what you do is you take those ships. Those ships themselves will have ongoing bonuses.
Yep.
Not quite like Splendor where you get an automatic benefit.
Yep.
But it's more so when you trigger the bonus on the ships, there will be cascading points on them.
Yep. I'm with you. Yeah.
And the goal of the game is to get to 40 points. So it is very Splendor-like.
Create your engine, do what you need to do. Yeah.
I will and I definitely want to play this more.
Mm-hmm.
What I will say though is, if anyone said, would I rather play this or Splendor, it's still Splendor.
Oh,
it is a good game, and I think there is a really good game in there.
What player count have you played at that?
We played it at 4.
Do you think it would be better with lower players?
I think so. They had a fair bit of downtime.
Okay.
Well, for a light game, I thought there was too much downtime. Maybe better at 2, but I will say, look, good game. Glad I played it. I definitely want to play it some more. But of all the games that I picked up, this was the one that I was hoping more from after my first couple plays.
Look, that's interesting because I'm not the hugest Splendor fan. Splendor Duel I love.
Yeah.
Splendor, no. Maybe it's just I just expect more from my games these days. And maybe I'm just grown out of the simplicity of Splendor and I just need more, which is why I really like Duel because it's really head on. But if you prefer Splendor over this, I'd be very interested to have a look at this. This does look, from the artwork, it does look very, very interesting. It does look like it has a bit more complexities comparatively.
And the thing is, though, so Knarr is designed by Thomas Dupont, and like I said, look, I want to play it more. I want to play it at a lower player count, and I want to know if it's the sort of quick game that it's advertised to be.
Okay, that
wasn't my experience after my first play. However, I will say that's me being super critical. And it's really, really difficult to stand up after we played, like, let's say, Tiger and Dragon, which was amazing.
Yeah, and look, and this is the thing, which is that for a podcast, if this is the first time that you're listening, and for even our regular viewers, we talk about a lot of games, right?
Yep.
We've talked about a lot of games. So we will see things and go, we kind of like this, but we also start realizing very quickly, are there games that I would rather play instead of this? And that's just, look, there's a personal preference a lot of the time, comes down to. And I will say that there are a lot of games out there that, that there are games that I will only play in certain situations now. Like there are games I own that I go, I will not get rid of this, but I know that I will not be playing it a lot because it's only for specific things.
Agreed.
Yeah. That's how it kind of goes. But that's great to hear that you've got some really cool games. Really, I guess we are going to have to try and tee up some Let's Plays of these, I think.
Well, let's do it. I like
Fantastic. So we'll keep an eye out. If you haven't already, make sure that you click the like and subscribe button on our YouTube channel or the follow on all of the podcasting platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Make sure you do that. We really do appreciate it. One thing that I would like to talk about, which I have been talking about for a while that I was going to do, which is that I have been saying that I would try Arkham Horror. And because it is Ralph's number 1 game of all time, it is one of your top 3, I believe.
I think it was third.
It was in your top 3, but your top 3 is interchangeable at any point in time.
It could honestly be Ralph particularly Ralph and I have had so many good sessions of Arkham. If you asked me a day after one of those sessions, I'd say it was the greatest game I've ever played.
Perfect. So, Well, so I had a chance to play the introductory campaign of Arkham Horror plus the side mission of the Hotel Excelsior.
Oh, nice.
So Ralph decided that he said in one of the weeks whilst you were away, look, let's not record, let's play Arkham Horror. And I said, you know what? Let's do it. I've been umming and ahhing and haven't done it in a while. And I'm like, if you know me, I'm not a huge thematic storyteller guy. I've tried Gloomhaven. I just cannot for the life of me get into Gloomhaven. There's something about the system that just me and just go butt heads
that's
with.
Fair. Yeah.
And the way that it was kind of described to me was I couldn't understand what I was about to get into or why I think I would enjoy the game. Anyway, so the way that Arkham Horror works is you need to, first and foremost, it's set in the Lovecraftian sort of investigator style, where you and the other players around the table will need to have created a character before you even set up into the game. Now, Ralph, he created me a librarian character. Daisy, I think her name was.
Yes, so Daisy's all about using...
She was in the investigator. So she's all about, and there are different ways that you can do things. You can, you have to find clues. Let me take a step back before I get to that, right? So my character's theme was I was not good at fighting, but I was very good at using my brain and my intellect to, outwit opponents and move around the game.
Yeah, and typically the goal of that character is to get all your tomes out, so your library books, basically.
Yeah, so she's got basically a bag. And so essentially the way that I kind of visualized her was she was a librarian, and she kind of also, through the amount of times the books that she's read, she kind of dabbles in witchcraft. And so she has some tomes and things, and I had some. My build was the build is 30 cards that represent your character's abilities, and each card you're allowed to have 2 of. So you technically have 15 skills, if you will, that work in different ways. That can change a little bit through the game, but essentially you have 2 cards of each skill, and away you go. So my librarian's theme was she had a little bit of psychic power, but she was really big into investigation and reading and through the tome. So my mind imagined her as basically a librarian who's been dabbling in witchcraft. So that was how I imagined her. Anyway, so the way that the game works is that you have a campaign. Now, the introductory campaign has 3 different stories, and you play through each of them. And then depending on what happens in each of these games, you have to make note of certain interactions that you did or didn't do. And depending on what happens, you then at the end of the adventure read out, a la like the adventure books, you follow your adventure books where turn to page 3 and read this, blah, blah, blah. Arkham Horror does the exact same thing, but it'll ask you, did you kill this person? Or did you happen to do this?
Yeah, and it carries on beyond that. So one of the reasons why it does that, so there's the obvious one. If you die, you can die in the game.
And you can lose the game.
You can basically bail out on a mission. And there are legitimate reasons why. And there's
do that.
I'm not going to spoil it, but there are certain scenarios where bailing out is actually the best thing to do.
Look, I will give a light spoiler warning. There may be some light spoil. I will try to avoid it, but for me to kind of explain why I really liked it, I'm going to try to not spoil it, but I will only be talking about the introductory sort of thing.
So I think we can safely talk about the introductory one because it hasn't changed, and we're not. And
I don't think it would change anyway.
It hasn't changed in years, and I think it's okay to talk about it a little bit.
Look,
but I will say that one of the other reasons why it's really important is because there are certain characters that you can only unlock through these missions. And these characters are not main characters; they are characters that you slide into your deck as companions. And most decks can only have one companion out at a time. But
Ralph played a character who could have multiple companions.
Yes. And when we talk about Arkham, and I'll just say quickly, we're generalizing the rules here. There are characters that have wildly
and that break stuff.
Yeah, like for instance, I played my favorite character class are rogues. They are typically the green characters. And the character that I've been playing a lot recently, she has the ability to basically reuse items that would normally otherwise be disposed of. And it's wild when it pays off because all of a sudden you just have these items that just never go away and you're just incredibly powerful. But I'm very much a glass cannon. Look, carry on, but I will say we're going to try our best to not spoil anything.
But if you don't want to be spoiled anything about this, I apologize. I'll try and put a timestamp. Look at the chapters for when we talk about the unspoil. I'll make sure there's a chapter there, but I will try. Look, I'll give you the basic theme of what the first mission was, right? So the first campaign is basically we are in the lead investigator. So one of the 2 characters has to be the lead investigator, or sorry, you can have multiple people, but realistically, I don't think you'd be playing this game with more than 2, maybe 3 at maximum.
It's really good at 3, but I wouldn't play it at 4.
Yeah. So one person has to be the lead investigator, and essentially they have to be the person who makes most of the decisions at some point, right? In terms of story beats and things like that. The essential of the story, as far as I can remember it, was I was in my house. Then all of a sudden, I'm not in my house anymore. I'm in a trapped room. and all of a sudden there seems to be like demonic noises coming from somewhere in the house,
Yeah.
and go, right?
Yeah.
Now, the way that the game works is that in front of the players are a whole bunch of location cards, and these represent the different rooms and are kind of like where you can move your character. So it's not every room is connected to every other room, so there's a little system there. And then generally the game revolves around you have to find what they call clues. And those clues can be, they're just a token, but you may need to get, for example, 4 per investigator that you have.
Yeah.
So we have to get 8 clues to advance the story. And if we don't advance the story fast enough, there is a timer of different things, of different maybe hunters or different enemies who are looking for us for reasons unknown,
That's
in this particular story.
In general, the timer is driven by Doom on particular cards. And every single card, or every single scenario will have normally 3 cards.
Yep.
Some scenarios that changes a little bit, but typically it's 3 cards, and depending on the number of players will depend on how much Doom that particular scenario will take before it flips and you progress the story.
Yeah.
Typically speaking, or normally, progressing the story is bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah, go on.
So you either want to try and complete the mission before the story continues without you.
Yeah.
And so we had a couple of key characters appear in our first mission, and one being a companion who I was able to get a hold of, and one being a kind of a mini boss, if you will, there's a certain mini boss. Now, I was not good at fighting, and Ralph was having a terrible time with his deck. We could not defeat this boss, but we were able to complete the mission.
Right. Yep.
So we were able to actually complete the mission, but we didn't. This person, the character, had to stay in the mission. Damien knows who I'm talking about. I'm not spoiling it for this, but there was a specific character in the very first mission that didn't stay there. We were able to finish it. We left, and then all of a sudden we had to read out that it turns out that, hey, this is the only light spoiler that I'm going to say. So I burnt down my house, right? And when I burnt down my house, the companion that I had was not happy with me doing that. And therefore we had to read out a specific paragraph that would lead into the next story beat, right? So we burned down my house, and that was the end of the first story. Now, in terms on night 1, we played over 2 nights. You get given XP based on the main objectives that you complete. So there are side objectives, like you go, hey, go here. If you can unlock this door and investigate this room, you may not get anything towards the main mission, but you may get a main experience point boost for whatever reason.
Mm-hmm.
You can then use those experience points to then update your deck. So Ralph whips out his binder, 2 binders, I should actually say, and we start looking through all the cards. And he goes, you've got 5 points. This is how you spend them. You can probably get 1 upgrade, maybe 2.
Yeah.
Have a look for what seems cool. And so I was able to upgrade a couple of cards. Really cool. He says, all right, we've got 2 options. I go, okay. And he goes, we can either play the second story, the second mission of the campaign, or we can try out this side mission called the Hotel Excelsior. And I went, that sounds cool. Let's try that out. Now, it doesn't advance the story in any way, shape, or form. It is its own self-contained mission, but it does provide us XP that we can use towards the other mission. So if you've ever played any video games, it's essentially going on a side quest, doing some stuff that you go, I know the main story is over there, but I'm going to go do this thing anyway, level myself up, hopefully, and then come back a bit stronger.
Or even find additional companions and stuff.
Or weapons, we'll come into. So we played the Hotel Excelsior. Now, this one I'm definitely not going to spoil because this one was easily one of the coolest missions I had played in the whole thing, right?
It really is.
It was a really cool thing where essentially the story, without going too much into it, is that there was a murder, and then essentially we're getting framed for the murder.
Yeah.
And then we then have to investigate this hotel and find out what the hell actually happened. And I would, without spoiling anything, my ending essentially was I was like the internet meme guys, like aliens. That was essentially what was going down in our story. But that's a lot of stuff. And then there's a lot of intrigue based on people that you do or didn't find, things that did or didn't happen. And that mission alone, now I know I'm really underselling what this mission was. It was very tense because we were running around rooms, trying to avoid people who were looking for us. But there was a moment in that mission where we had 2 specific items that we found, which meant that, hey, we were going to have specific things. And I thought, given the items that we have, surely I need to check that room, which we haven't opened yet. That surely should be where the main boss of this thing should be, right?
Mhm.
And Ralph was like, I don't know, maybe. And like he obviously kind of knew a little bit more than I did about the mission. But I went, there were 2 items, and I put something together, and I went, no, I'm going to move over there and check it. And sure enough, I open up that room, look in there, and all of a sudden it says, right, read this thing because we just found the boss and we need to do it. I'm like, holy crap. This was the first moment when I played this game when I'm like, this actually, the designers of these missions were thinking along the lines of, well, if you had this and this, where would this character be? Where would they be? And it actually made me go, it's not just a story, it is actually a little bit of a puzzle. You can get good at this by kind of putting together the actual clues of the game that they've presented to you. And you can actually, by knowing, for example, let's just like, not even a game type, but like, if you found a wood chisel, and maybe I'd go double check the lumber mill because it's there because, well, why not? Because maybe he works with wood, right? Something like that. That's a completely random example, but that whole idea, and that was that moment where I actually felt really smart. I'm like, oh shit, that actually worked.
Yeah.
I can actually go check there. All right. And so I did. And I was like, okay. And we got out of there. I'm like, sweet, we have more XP to spend and blah, blah, blah. And then we called it a night. Great.
Yeah.
Had a lot of fun.
So,
really excited to go again.
So Arkham, for me, what really sold me on the game was the storytelling. It was the first time where I played a game where I'm reading the story and I said, like, if this was in a book, I would read it. Like, I try to read a lot more than what I do. And I love reading. But this was one of those games where even when we play, I say, no, I'm going to read it. Because I truly love the storytelling in it. But the other thing as well is that I'm also sort of like back in the day deck building buff, so Magic, Pokemon, stuff like that, and my son is also into it too. So we truly enjoy just like grabbing characters and just saying
theory crafting.
And just saying, all right, so if we wanted to do something crazy with this character, what would it look like? And I will say, like, the game is not perfect. So there is a site called Arkham DB, and you can go there and you can have a look at some of the decks that people have built. And there are some people that have gone out of their way to build what's known as infinite decks. So on your turn, you have a certain number of action points, and they are literally, so any action you take, whether it be
playing a card,
taking resources. Drawing a card, they're all actions. Cards cost resources to play.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people that have designed decks that if you can get the right cards out, and some of these decks actually it's actually
easier said than done.
No. It's actually easier than what you'd think. They then become infinite action turns.
Right.
That's not in the spirit of the game. The game is supposed to be about a little bit of struggle while you're trying to make your way through.
Yeah.
That's where the value of the game is. That's where the storytelling happens. And even though, so Ralph, myself, and a friend of ours, we're currently working through the Path to Carcosa campaign. I think we're about 3/4 of the way through it. The storytelling in that campaign is many times better than the base box, and the base box is already really good.
Yeah, I will say as well. So the game we haven't actually mentioned for anyone who hasn't played the game is what's called a living card game, which basically means it's not like a trading card game, but they were releasing new booster packs or like character packs where it's like, hey, here's a new character and some new cards to go with certain powers and things.
That's the way they used to
and that's how they used to do it, right? So that's how it came through. Now, I will say what you said. So at the end of the Hotel Excelsior, I had a couple of cards and a weakness that happened due to our story. So then I had essentially a scar. Like I've been scarred from something that happened. But I also now had a new weapon that I never had access to and that I could bring into my next mission. So Ralph and I finished that night and we came back on the next week and we decided to play it again instead of recording. And I said, I want to finish this campaign. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to say this right now. It didn't go well.
It's really hard.
We got absolutely, in the second mission, we could not, Ralph was not having a good time with his deck. He was not able to, because my character couldn't kill anyone really. And so I was running around trying to get clues and Ralph was having a rough time getting beaten up. So we had to leave that mission early. And then the final mission was essentially, we had to go find the bad guys we couldn't even find them before we lost the mission. Right?
Yeah.
So we absolutely got completely and utterly decimated in terms of the story, to the point where even in the storybook it says, look, you lose, right? But here's what happened and here's the thematic. Now, I will say, I want to step back to what you said about the story. I'm not huge into Lovecraft sort of novels. I'm not huge into that whole supernatural mystique thing. I don't mind it, but it's never been my wheelhouse when it comes to story. But having played, being a character in the story, I was kind of like, this is super freaking cool. So it is super cool what's going on, and I'm part of it. And I really did feel like I was affecting the storyline.
Yeah, like I'm not the biggest Lovecraftian fan, not because I think the genre is not interesting. I think the genre is really interesting. The problem I have with it is that the reason why it's so for any listeners out there, the reason why there are so many Lovecraftian board games out there is because the licensing is part of general public now.
Yeah, so you can just use whatever you want.
It's completely free. So, but and most games will just say, okay, Lovecraftian, cool. What are we going to do? We're going to drop Cthulhu. We're going to drop Hastur. We're going to drop every single monster, and it's going to be a monster game. Let's go. That's not what Lovecraftian is. Lovecraftian does have monsters in it,
but it's more about the intrigue.
It's more about the intrigue, and it's more about it's more about the whole, am I going insane? Did that really happen? What's wrong with me? What's wrong with you? Are we going nuts? Like, where are we? It's more about dealing with sort of like insanity and such. It's less about the monsters, and that's what that is shown in. Yeah, Arkham portrays that more, and I think because it leans into that more, the storytelling is better. Yeah,
and so you have two different. Another thing which we have skipped over, which is that you have two different sort of health points, if you will. You have physical health, and then you have insanity. Which is basically
your mental health.
Your mental health, if you will, right? And basically some like my character had basically four physical health, but I had 8 mental health, right? So I was mentally strong, but Ralph was the opposite, right? He wasn't very mentally strong, but physically strong. And so that the idea of that if I was to actually be killed, or if I happened to have gone insane in that mission, I could get scars going into the next mission based on the fact that, so I'm not dead, but I got knocked out and now I have a scar based on that. So, look, the reason why I wanted to bring it up is because I want to thank Ralph for pushing me to continue to play this game. This is what I said to him. I said, this is probably the best game that I will never own. Because as much as I respect it, I don't think I can play it solo. I'm just not that type of gamer.
Yeah.
However, having thought about it, I just don't know if it is my sort of game to own. However, if you ever said to me, we're playing a campaign you want in,
look,
I would probably go, sure, I would love to play, but I don't know if I'd ever buy it. And it's a weird kind of, it's this weird, I feel bad about saying it because I really like the game, but I know if I bought it, I don't know if I'd ever get it off the shelf.
And that's fair, because so I had the opposite reaction. I played it, and I played it almost the exact same way. We played the intro scenario of the base campaign, and then we stopped for dinner. It was another friend of mine who showed me the game, and then he also set up Hotel Excelsior, and I had a miserable time in the hotel. Without giving it away, I was the guy that just got chased everywhere.
There are like 6 or 7 different endings in the hotel, by the way. So like if we give away something like Ralph literally said to me, I've never seen that ending before. So he's played it like 3 or 4 times and we got something new.
The following week, I sold a bunch of games and bought into Arkham. I had the opposite reaction because it was so different to anything I had played. However, my situation is different. If I put a deck builder or a game that requires deck construction in front of my son, we will play that game.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah. There's not something that I would do with Georgie. Georgie wouldn't do that.
And that's
my
the difference.
Wife,
and then following up with that, Ralph and I have caught up a bunch of times and played over the last couple of years. We've caught up with another friend of ours, and it's gotten to the point that as much as we like Frosthaven, we've all kind of said like if we had a choice between Frosthaven and Arkham, we'd play Arkham.
Look, and that's I want to say as well, I respect this game for what it is. I look at it now and I go, I get it. I get why you two love it. Because I really enjoyed it. I just know I just know that I don't think I'll get what out of it. Now, our friend Hamish, he's also bought it now because you introduced it to him. He had the same thing. He's like, I got to buy that game because I want to play it. So I can see it, and I would actually always be down for a game. I don't know how I'd go in terms of the theory crafting side, but whatever. I want to say, however, what it has done is it actually has piqued my interest, though, in the thematic deck building sort of game, to the point where Earthborne Rangers is now, Shut Up and Sit Down just launched their review. It's starting to hit the review copies are all coming out now. The embargoes have been lifted, and there is a tabletop simulator mod. I whipped up that mod to literally look at the prologue. Now, I've only played the prologue. I haven't played any of the main story missions, but I had heard that this game, and I went and watched the designers play it with a YouTube channel. And I also, I will admit, seeing Shut Up and Sit Down's review, I immediately wanted to look at what this game was.
Yeah.
Because the way that they deal with it is that they've created their own custom world and a custom way that these characters, these rangers work. I will say the game does play exactly like Arkham.
All right. Okay.
Your objectives are you need to get 4 objective points on the objective, which is 4R, which is 4 per ranger, which is exactly the same as Arkham. You only get a certain amount of action tokens per round that you can spend before everything else in the world affects around you. Now, there are some really cool things that happen. I'm not going to go into much of the game because I actually do want to play a bit more of this. Now, this is a game that I said I wouldn't buy Arkham. I do think I could get Georgie to play Earthborne. And the reason is the prologue is a step-by-step guide in world, in game, that takes you through 3 very basic turns, if you will, of like how you complete a mission, how you interact with the world, and how you do other things.
Yeah.
And that by the end of those 3 missions, you'll have added different things into your deck, items, different stats, different things, and all of a sudden you'll come out the other end with a deck ready to go for mission 1.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is the thing that I could get Georgie to play, or Georgie to play with me, because it doesn't feel like we need to sit down there and make a deck in the very first instance. But to get her claws into the game, we have a step-by-step walkthrough, which I thought was really good.
It's kind of funny because Arkham almost, and I will totally agree with you. That barrier, that deck,
construction,
deck construction or deck crafting barrier is the biggest barrier for most.
Yeah. I will say as well, the theme can really put off people if you don't.
Oh yeah.
Just like, and I know it's Lovecraftian and I get it, but if you see Arkham horror, people who are like,
Oh yeah, and I know that isn't for everyone, but particularly like the deck crafting, that is a barrier for most. Not everyone's wired like I am.
No, I get it, but that's why I love your brain. It's great.
Thankfully, not everyone's wired like I am, because the world would be just a weird place. I love the deck construction side of it. I can sit there when I have time and just go through card after card after card and just go, okay, so that one will work really well with that. And I remember that card that I read about a little while ago, and I'll match it up with that. However, having a system that limits that scope down to, here are 6 cards, pick one, and then go from there. I think something like that in Arkham would shoot it right up and make it something that's even more, maybe more entry, like air quotes here.
Essentially what Earthborne does is very much that. It basically says, here are 4 different, fitness things, right? And they each have names like bold or, physical or, endurance, right? And it basically, the thing says, pick one that sounds cool. Yeah. Like, don't read it. Just pick one that sounds cool, right? Just know that there's only one thing that you have to be aware of. Like, you can't pick this if your fitness rating is not high enough, right? So you're like, okay, so you pick one. And then it goes, all right, now pick one of your spirit. Do the exact same thing for your spirit, for your fitness, there's 2 other ones that I cannot remember for the life of me. It's blue and green. I just can't remember it. But essentially, it's basically like, okay, now that you've got that, we're going to take you through a simple turn of how you use these cards to finish a mission. Cool. Then it goes, okay, now you're going to pick your background. And your background is just basically like, maybe you're a herbalist, maybe you're an animal lover, maybe you're a tinkerer. Yeah. Right? It says, pick one of these 8 cards. And it goes, right, now pick 4 of them. Right? It just goes, right, now pick 4 of those cards, chuck them into your deck, shuffle up, and let's go again. And now we'll do the same thing, but now we're going to interact with the world. And then it finally gets one final thing where it says, all right, now you're going to pick your race. I think it's race. Can't remember what it's like, but it's not. It's basically your traits. Sorry, not race. It's traits. And the traits is the final bit of like your character, of like, what do you like to do? Do you want to do? And so then again, it says, right, pick one of these. Now you're going to pick 5 of these, which is like 9 of them. And you pick 5, add them to your deck, but put everything away to the side. It says, don't throw them out, put them to the side, because we may come back to them later. And all of a sudden you come out at the end of it and I got a deck with everything that I picked. And then they're very, very big on, the book is very big on like, don't worry about what it says yet. For your prologue, just pick something that looks cool and come up with an idea of a character in your head. And now all of a sudden you are in the world. Yeah. And I think that's really cool. I really like that.
Like I do wonder, I'm certain Arkham would absolutely benefit from something like that. Like even with the first scenario, rather than just saying, and even if you just had the base box, you didn't have any other packs or any other cards, there's still a lot of cards to go through.
Is there four different characters?
4 different characters, and I don't know how many. There's
a lot.
There's either 100 and something, or maybe just south of 200 cards in there. So there's a lot of cards, and even though yes, you go each character, you will only. It says on the back of the character card, it says you can upgrade with cards of these ranking and so on and so forth. Mm-hmm. But still, it just means you're reading through a number of cards. Now, after you play the game for a little while, you'll know, okay, so for this deck, I want 2 companions. I want 3 weapons, for instance. I mean, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, but it's probably not too far from the truth. And then, I want a card. I want a couple emergency caches in there so I can get supplies, and I want, so on and so forth. And when you do that, you go, well, I've got room for 10 more cards, and it's those 10 more cards that will really sort of drive the direction of your deck. And again, I'm just pulling numbers out of the air, but it's pretty close. But still, even just trying to pick those last 10 cards, that's when the real research kicks in and you go, well, now I have to read all the cards.
Yeah.
Something like what they do in Earthborne Rangers, that sounds really cool. That would be the sort of thing where I could just turn around to most people, even on a game night, we could say, hey, we're going to play Arkham. And we'll just play the mission. And by the way, of the cards that it said, here they are. Pick one. Yeah. Add it to your deck. Use your XP to get one of those. There you go. Yeah. And we'll just keep going.
I really like the fact, though, that they have provided a digital version of their rulebook free for you to access online. And not just the rulebook, the actual storybook.
Oh, nice.
So you can just go straight to their website. I can pull it up on an iPad and we could be playing it, and I could have a digital version going and I can do that. They're look, I will say, they have also just hired the guys who made Earthborne Rangers. They have hired one of the main story developers for Arkham Horror. Has been picked up.
Yeah.
So when you play Earthborne, you will see the Arkham Horror influence, right? The whole system is basically exactly the same. Like, from your actions per turn to the only difference is that I play a card, you play a card, rinse and repeat. And I have certain tokens that I can spend, which are all my fitness and stuff, right? So I've got all those. So certain things I'm maybe good at physical stuff, so I can do more physical stuff this turn than you can. But it's still only one card. Rather in Arkham Horror, it's I play all of my cards, then you do all of your cards.
Yeah.
But in general, the way that you complete missions is the same. The way that you defeat bad guys is the same. The way that you get XP is kind of the same. And then all of a sudden you have a story. And
nice.
But the way that I've heard, and I'm looking forward to trying it out, some of these missions apparently are just super like real cool, like the way that it works. So the main difference is in a campaign, the campaign is 30 days or 30 plays, can be up to that, but at the end of 30 days something will happen. But you have to travel around the world and make your own choice of where you're going and when you're going there, because it could matter, because changing conditions, depending if you've gotten there, if anything else has happened. There's a lot of stuff going on. So
nice.
I just wanted to say the reason why we want to talk about Arkham Horror today is because I've played it now, I get it, but I've also it's made me keen to try some other thematic games and story-driven games. I'm not the campaign gamer of the group. You all know that about me, and if you don't, you're going to know about it more. But now I'm slowly getting to the point where I'm like, you know what? I could be down for it. So,
Nice.
all right, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to bring us to the end of this one tonight. We are closing on that hour. Thank you very much for joining us. We didn't really have a Gateway Game of the Week or a discussion topic, but we wanted to kind of talk about Earthborne and Arkham Horror because I know it's one of your favorite games. And I would be very interested to see where it is in my top 100 list. It will make that list, I can tell you right now. I don't know where it'll sit, but it'll definitely be in there somewhere. But I'm looking forward to trying it again and maybe actually making a different character. Maybe I want to try someone who's good at fighting. I don't know. We'll see next time.
I think you'd like rogues.
All right, well, I'm gonna have to give that. I'm gonna have to give that one a go. All right, well, thank you so much for joining me once again. If you enjoyed the episode, please make sure you hit the like and subscribe button down here on YouTube. On your podcasting app of choice, make sure you click follow, share, and give us a rating. 5 stars on iTunes. It all helps. And look, I'm gonna put this out right now. We do have some special content coming up. We also may have had some special content on our YouTube already released. So if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let's just say Blood on the Clock Tower has been getting some love on our channel recently, and rightly so. So until next time, my name is Neeber. This was Damien. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you then.
See ya.
Yeah, I have to try and remember the timing in my head. I think Blood on the Clock Tower